Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new episode of Professionals Unplugged. I am your host, Utkarsh Shukla, and let me introduce you to my guest, Disha. Disha, thank you so much for joining in.
Hello.
So, let's start with our very basic question. Can you please introduce our audience to yourself, like who you are, what work you do, anything you want us to know about you?
Sure, my full name is Jishananwani Sharma. I am founder Style by Vida. Vida stands for Life in Spanish. Here on a journey to make millions of shoppers feel confident about themselves by providing an AI and 3D tech platform. So what we do B2B services for fashion and jewelry brands. As you may know, fashion is a $1.7 trillion industry growing at an amazing CAGR, and we work in particularly fashion and jewelry sector within, and we have our AI and 3D tech for the same. My background is in product and AI. I have spent 2 decades in the industry doing the same. This venture is about 2 years old or young, I must say. And before this, I worked with corporates like McKinsey, TCS, and Sun Life Financial in various roles.
Okay, amazing. So, now you're working as a founder, Style by Vida, right? And you told us about your background, like working with TCS, and I think your last company was McKinsey. Right. So that's one of the top consulting firm and leaving your job, starting your own company from a very top tier firm. So what was the reason behind it? And if you can just share a story behind it.
So I would say definitely McKinsey and Company is amazing. I was in a technology group. It's called Technology and Digital. And the reason to leave the job had nothing to do with McKinsey and Company. That place was amazing. But since the day one, there was always this quote with pretty popular there, make your own McKinsey. And of course, I had a similar mindset. And here I am more so to propagate the vision that I have for Vida, and not so much it's not about being in McKinsey. I still miss being there and lovely people. But yes, I would definitely say that at the firm we were amidst the brightest talent across the globe. So that bit I do miss in my startup, but I'm sure I'll get there.
That's nice. And if you can share the story, like why you started this company, what was the main reason for the inception of it?
Sure. So it wasn't just during the McKinsey days. Like all my colleagues who worked with me, apart from my family members, know that very soon in the career game, like 3 to 4 years down the line, I was always very clear that I want to do something more. I was always around, like the common elements used to be fashion, image, like people being comfortable being themselves, but I didn't know exactly what. So, particularly in 2019, I went through an amazing transformation workshop in at McKinsey again. I was by Manford Consulting, and that's where the whole. I would say I started getting clarity towards what I wanted to do, and so one thing led to another. I started practicing mindfulness as well, and I ended up doing a course in styling. And then there was this one particular couple of weeks wherein I picked up this course from Milan Fashion Campus on styling, and I was just doing it for fun. It was during the COVID days, right? I was like, okay, let's just do it, and was like, okay, fine, I can engage with more people in a non-conflicting manner, because the moment you do AI or tech, it's conflicting, right, with the firm. So I started working with people, and like soon I realized that people associate styling with confidence, and that's where I got interested in this area. And then as I was in the chat space, like natural language processing and large language model space in AI at the same time, I just felt that two can meet, and we can give a fun, entertaining, more meaningful shopping platform to the shoppers, and hence the journey started.
That's amazing. So it is basically a B2B rather than
It
B2C,
is
right?
right now B2B. Style by Vida always started with a vision to B2C. But of course, I'm not from fashion industry. Now I can say I am from fashion industry. I spent 2 years here. So it was always like, yeah, let's just build B2B tech. So my belief is that styling over shopping will take shoppers towards more mindful buying. They will be confident about what they buy. The industry is struggling with high return rates that will reduce, as well as this industry produces more than 90 million tons waste every year. So that will reduce as well. So it's more like the belief in the tech platform. Right now we're B2B and we're happy being B2B. But if tomorrow, there's an association, etc., and if we believe that yes, we could go B2C as well, we don't have any issues with that. Let me put it like that.
Yeah, amazing to know. And if I ask you about the starting or the initial challenges that you have faced as a founder, because I think you are telling us it's 2 years in, right? So it must be like post-COVID era or like when the COVID
Post
was.
COVID, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the market was also pretty much down at that time. So what were the initial challenges that you faced or top challenges? Because there must be challenges you have faced.
Yeah, totally, totally. And now I end up telling everyone that quitting your job is the easiest decision you make before you start your startup. So, okay, let me say, what were the top three challenges? I think the first one was product market fit. So like understanding the problem at in depth, you spend time, you follow processes, I think you get there. And being an expert in design thinking and innovation, that was like more so following the process, but figuring out the right solution for that problem, for which in this B2B setup businesses will pay, is the biggest challenge I think any B2B company faces, and even we face. And I would say that journey is not done still, right? So the problem is known now, but what solution will work the best is like something is ever evolving. That's one. Then second, which was a totally unexpected challenge. So I used to believe that you go to these companies who have say sale revenue more than 100 cr per annum, and they wouldn't think twice before cutting a very reasonable bill for tech, but realize that especially in Indian market, I can't speak for others as much, the VC-led startups had really spoiled the space by giving a lot of free lunches. And again, I'm all in for pilots. The second challenge, last but not the least, of course, is like, I wouldn't say it more like a challenge, but we put our foot in that. So, making those trusted contacts in the industry. As I said, when I started, I wasn't from the fashion industry, right? And then soon it was like, you know what, I really need to speak with the domain experts. But there, it is such a happy story. You go on LinkedIn, you ping an expert, and they will give you time. We may think like I have spoken with Tata Click CPO to Reliance, our Geo CTO, to people who manage big brands like Boss, Michael Kors, and just a LinkedIn ping away. So that was it was like a little bit challenging, but I figured it out, and people are more helpful than we think.
I think that's a really great point you mentioned regarding the connections and setup things. So if I ask you about how you got your first client, because first client is always the toughest part that we feel as an entrepreneur and whether it's from any industry. So what was that journey?
So actually, that was very easy for us. It just happened. Oh, blessed. So rather, when I quit, we hadn't even built the technology. It was a very vague idea in our head. We at least knew the problem space. We got one client via our existing network, and rather within the 3 months of registering the company, we were with our tech in Lakme Fashion Week itself. So the first one wasn't hard, but yes, the second one was harder because we ended up getting in 3D space, and Meta was talking big about 3D and the whole metaverse, etc. wave was there. And then it kind of, in a way fizzled out. We'll get there, but there are some, technology challenges also in that space. So let's just say that the space is not ripe as yet, but will be in some time to go. So I think there it became a little bit of problem that we realized that because we were so excited that we got our first client easy, we kind of built the solution a little bit way more custom for them than it was supposed to be. So a second was a challenge, so much so that we had to kind of tweak the solution, and then on the new solution we have few more clients together using the same service.
Okay, so is it like you are customizing the solutions or the softwares for each client, or like you are providing one solution to them and then it can be customizable? How is it working?
So we have a platform called Vida. So it understands fashion. There's a styling book of knowledge. It is a large language model that understands what styling is, curated across from knowledge across the globe. And then of course we have reusable assets. But for now, yes, we do kind of tweak the journey for the player. What we are seeing is that as it's a creative industry, people want to be creative with technology solution as well. And so underlying tech is reused. But right now, it is, I would say, more B2B services with reusable assets.
Okay. And is it like a solution-based service, or you're also providing it as an infra-based service, like completely deploying?
Solution-based service, pretty much solution-based service. And then there is one product which we have converted into a Shopify app already, and that is B2B SaaS now. But now we have decided to kind of do more services reusing our platform first and be sure to build a product which can be used by many, or even this is fine. We really love what we're doing at the moment.
Okay, so not like going in the direction of selling it as an infra, focusing more on being a solution driven, right?
Yes, right now, yes.
And talking about AI and other aspect you mentioned, like Meta has already been there as a metaverse, and there are many tech giants who are now considering more towards AI and all those features where you can feel the growth. I remember the last conference of the Meta where Zuckerberg has shown like you can also try to see how the cloth is behaving by just touching it, or like there was some things that they have mentioned, right? So do you think it's hard to compete in such a market that is probably being driven by only few giants and very well known?
I would put it simply like this, that we have TCS, Infosys, Wipro, but that doesn't put an end to having technology services companies, right? So similarly, it's true for product companies. You always find your niche. So I don't worry about competing. Rather, I see it as a positive sign that if big players are working in that space, you have room. And also, the thing that we have to take care of is we should remain more affordable than them, right? As long as I'm able to take care of that, I don't worry. And also, coming from big corporates myself, it does help. So at least I don't see that the brands struggle to trust us as a brand. They're able to trust us because of the background. So that's not a problem. But yes, there's definitely like a possibility that you will be bought over by one of the big giants because of that. I mean, yeah, and then we'll see when we reach there.
I think that's a very valid point you have mentioned. And talking about your LLM models and all those things, so you guys have your own models, or like you are using an open source models? Like there are many companies who have open source, like Meta with their Llama models, they have open sourced it.
Yeah, so we fine-tuned Llama 3.
Okay.
So we actually started this company with the thought of we will build our own large language model. However, December 9th, 2022, our company got launched as registered in exactly the same month ChatGPT was launched. So we immediately changed our vision. We were like, no, there is amazing advancement in the industry. And as I was saying to the previous question also, rather than kind of competing with the big players, we try to ride that wave. So it was like, okay, fine, ChatGPT is there, Google Gemini came up, and then Llama 3 was there. Why not ride that wave and kind of personalize it further? Because there's clearly a gap in the industry. Like there is, of course, there are these big models, and then there are these domain experts who are running their business. So there is a whole technology gap in between. People here do not understand how to use a chat gpt or a llama 3, so we come in between, and so we've kind of fine-tuned it and we work on top of it. Rather, that's our strategy. It's like um, we curate and customize over building our own, but in 3D we have built elements on our own because there's not much that's available there.
Yeah, so if I say or like summarize what Style by Vida is, it's basically a more tech-driven company where you're trying to initialize technology in a fashion
Totally.
industry.
Totally, totally. We are a pure tech company, and today we are in fashion. We are very open to expanding to retail, but we have stuck to one industry because in AI, if you stick to an industry, your solutions become more meaningful, right? And hence we've stuck to one industry. But slowly we're expanding. Like already within fashion, we have a segment on apparels, and then we have a very clear segment on jewelry already now.
Very great. That's you talked about the scalability in terms of product. If I talk about scalability in terms of geographical area, so which are the markets you are targeting right now? It's like basically more towards Indian region, or like more towards MENA or APAC region as well.
So for now, our focus was India because I always thought, being in this country, it's kind of easier for people to trust you, and then you do your PMF and show your initial revenue and profit, etc. So right now we've been very focused in India. In within 6 months' time, we want to actually focus on an international market. and we are being suggested by the industry experts that US is ripe right now, and I believe the same as well. Still, while no matter how the dynamics are working, but still it seems like they're more technologically advanced, and considering the space we are in, it might work out for us. But we still have to decide which one it would be. So for another 2 quarters, we're clearly focused on India, and we have to make a decision which international market after that.
And if I ask you in terms of team strength and profit, do you like to share the numbers?
Like, so we are a team of 10 right now, and we've always worked in a pool of full-time members and freelancers, right? And that helps us, kind of plug and play people. And it so happens also that sometimes you build the product, the collaborating brands comes to us and says, oh, could you also manage a Shopify platform? And we're like, we don't want to get into that at the moment. Eventually, maybe yes, we would love to become technology partners, so we sometimes leave our people with them. So right now, that's the strength on revenue. I mean, like this year, we've made profit, and I mean, it's that bit is not hard in technology services, right? Because we shifted our focus also from being a pure product company to, let's just use Vida as a platform and do more services, solution-based services, to understand, where there's this bug. Because I've been very clear since day one that business is all about, numbers and revenue. So I don't hesitate in changing the strategy. So we changed it this year.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point to be known. And if I ask you, like, it's a funded based company or like you guys have funded yourself?
It bootstrapped, but pretty much now it's self-sustainable.
So that's good to know. And talking about your journey, so if you can share advice, like three advice, if I ask you from your entire journey as an entrepreneur and being working with the blue chip firms, what it will be?
Okay, so well, let's see. Number one, be prepared. It's a hard journey. I would not mince it. It's like it's fun, of course. You're living every single day the way you want it, but there will be things that will not pay out for your plan. Like before I started this journey, I even had a 5-year plan, and now I'm like, let's take each day as it comes. I mean, of course, you have your goals and targets and all of that. Then that's one thing. Be prepared. Like make a choice if and then the second thing is make this choice if you're very passionate about what you're doing. Like don't I hear some people who are like, I am I don't like my boss, I hate the work timings, I don't like what I do. That's not a reason for you to start your venture. You have to love the space you're in and start only then, because that will give you all the energy and strength. And even like, because you need a lot of that. So that's second. Third, I would say give yourself a runway for 2 years. I have seen that there are some founders within 6 months, like especially with my kind of background, within 6 months they want a salary, and which is equivalent to the salary you're getting there. So that's where I think it worked well for me, because my mentor, Manford Anand David, that I spoke about, he very clearly told me that just give yourself a runway for 2 years, define your enough, save your enough, and then start the journey. So I did that. It wasn't a challenge, and I would say that is one thing I would request everyone to replicate. That 2 years without kind of flexing your without changing your lifestyle, whatever is your enough, whatever makes you feel comfortable, give yourself a runway for 2 years without salary, and take this journey peacefully. Within 2 years you will find your space.
Yep, I think that's really a valid point because sometimes we are too much in hurry to get the salary or get the profit numbers that we forgot the real motive behind starting the company. So I think it's a pretty valid point and can be easily resonate with anyone who wants to start a journey or who have already started their journey as well.
Yeah.
And if I ask you about the sacrifices you have made as an entrepreneur, because you said it's not easy to quit your job, or it was easiest decision for you to quit your job, but afterwards, I know there must be a lot of sacrifices that you've gone through. So what were they?
I wouldn't say as much as sacrifice, but I saw a striking change in myself. I didn't want to take vacations. And then you have a family, right? They would want to. And I mean, I would advise others to as well. But just personally, every vacation I took in last 2 years, it was like very forced. It didn't feel like I was going with the wind. So I saw that change in myself. The second thing I saw was that every outcome I was judging, like every result I was judging a lot, like so much so that say for example from being from a good corporate, there was a norm that people will respond to emails within 24 hours, WhatsApp responses like really quick. So I was kind of raised in that environment. And then when I started working with Indian industry, people who just not respond, many of them. And then you're always kind of judging, is it me, is it my work? And I am someone who's very direct and very okay with no. But when someone doesn't respond, I wasn't able to let it go because stakes were so high. So I saw that bit of me changing, and then slowly, after, as I said, people are very approachable. I spoke with few in the industry, and then they said, "Oh, this is very normal, chill." And then I also saw, like, people who wouldn't respond when they would meet, it will be like, "Oh, I mean the world to them," and Vida means the world to them. So I realized that, oh, once you're in your startup journey, like out of this whole blue collar, amazing companies like McKinsey, people just, I think, are little low on, I would say, work ethics in general in our country. And that part did impact me, but now it doesn't. Now it's literally like, I know that, okay, my job is to send that email or do that thing, just do it and go back to your work.
Yeah, I think that's a very great point you mentioned. And if I ask you about any story you like to share with us from your personal or professional life till now that you think should be heard, what it will be?
That you think, sorry, could you repeat the
That
last
should
bit?
be heard, that should be shared.
Yes, one story. So how, like, of course I said it's hard, but this is more of a positive one. So there was this product that we started to build in jewelry space, and it was very vague when we started. We knew that, yeah, this is an interesting area to get in, especially with lab grown diamonds coming into play. The industry is booming. So we started to build that product, and the idea was that yes, we will, kind of, if the product solves for the right problem and the solution is meaningful, then we will scale it and it will become a vertical of its own, like our 3D vertical. And so we started working on it, and we were pretty enthused. And then within 3 months, we got an amazing buy offer on that product. Like so much so that it was 5x of what I had spent on the venture in last 2 years. And then then there was this another one on the similar line. So the that moment I realized that if we continue moving, like even if the days you're not able to run, you take one step at a time, there is money in the market. There are people willing to give you more than you would expect for certain areas. It's just about figuring out the space and the right solution.
I think this is the best point to end this podcast on this positive note. And in order to know that everyone has their part in the market and you need to keep working and take the step by step solutions to it. So thank you so much, Jisha, for sharing your journey and insights with us. It was really a great and insightful session for me as well, as coming from a tech background, knowing the entire journey. So thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you, Utkarsh. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.